I remember the exact moment I bought in. It wasn't after weeks of research. It wasn't after building a strategy or reading a white paper or understanding what I was actually buying. It was after the third person in 2 weeks said something offhand about how much they'd made, and I felt this specific kind of panic. Not excitement, panic, that I was going to be the only person who missed it. So I opened an app at 11 p.m., put in more than I was comfortable with, and told myself I'd figure out the rest later. I didn't figure out the rest later, and when it dropped, and it dropped hard, I did what most people do. I blamed the market. I blamed the timing. I blamed the people who told me to buy without telling me what buying actually meant. I did not for a long time look at the decision I made at 11 p.m. and ask what was actually driving it. Because that was the scarier question. Here's the thing, nobody says out loud about crypto losses. The market going down is not what destroyed most people's portfolios. The market going down just created the conditions. What destroyed most portfolios was what people did in response to it, and more importantly, what they did before it, when everything was going up and the feeling of missing out was louder than any rational calculation they could have made. A 2022 analysis by Chainalysis tracked retail crypto behavior across market cycles and found a pattern so consistent it almost sounds like a rule. Retail investors buy after prices go up and sell after prices go down, not because they're uninformed, because they're human. The same emotional architecture that makes you check your phone when you're anxious makes you buy when everyone around you seems to be winning and sell when your stomach drops and the number keeps going the wrong direction. The market is volatile. The behavior is predictable, and the behavior is what locks in the loss. I want to be specific about what actually happened in 2021 and 2022 because the timeline matters. The total crypto market cap hit roughly $3 trillion in November 2021. By mid-2022, it had fallen to under $1 trillion. That's a real number. That's people's real money. But here is what the chart doesn't show. The majority of retail investors who entered that cycle entered near the top, not the bottom. Google search interest for Bitcoin historically spikes at price peaks. Not during accumulation phases, not when prices are low and opportunity is high. When prices are low and quiet, nobody's talking about it. When prices are high and your coworker won't stop mentioning their gains, that's when the phone comes out at 11 p.m. The Dalbar organization has been tracking investor behavior for decades. Their research consistently shows that the average investor underperforms the market by 3 to 5% annually. Not because of what the market does, but because of when they get in and when they get out. That's in stocks, where markets close overnight and on weekends, where there's time to breathe. Crypto trades 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no circuit breakers, no pause button, no moment where you're forced to wait until morning and reconsider. It is an environment specifically engineered to amplify every emotional response you already have to money. And most of us walked into it without knowing that's what we were walking into. Here's the part I had to sit with for a while. I didn't lose money because Bitcoin went down. Bitcoin went down and came back. I lost money because I bought at the wrong time for the wrong reasons and sold at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. And by the time the recovery happened, I wasn't in a position to benefit from it. The market did what markets do. I did what people do when they've never been taught the difference between investing and reacting. Benjamin Graham, who was Warren Buffett's mentor and spent his career studying why investors destroy their own returns, wrote this in 1949. The investor's chief problem, and even his worst enemy, is likely to be himself. That was written about stocks before crypto existed. It applies here more than anywhere. The pattern that actually causes the losses goes like this. Prices rise. People around you start talking about it. FOMO activates. Not a metaphor, an actual neurological response. The same system that makes you feel left out at a social event gets triggered by financial exclusion. You buy at the peak or near it because the feeling of being left behind is more immediate than the abstract risk of buying high. Prices drop. Loss aversion kicks in, and loss aversion is roughly twice as powerful as the equivalent gain, according to decades of behavioral economics research. The pain of watching the number fall feels so disproportionate that selling feels like doing something, like taking control, even though what it actually does is convert a paper loss into a real one. Prices recover, you're no longer in it. You watch from the outside and the cycle starts again. This is not a story about discipline. It's a story about what happens when a normal human nervous system meets a market that was not designed with that nervous system in mind. The 5% rule exists for exactly this reason. Whatever you have invested, in stocks, in index funds, in anything, Most financial educators who specialize in beginner portfolios will tell you crypto exposure for someone who doesn't have a strategy yet shouldn't exceed 5 to 10% of total invested assets. Not because crypto is evil, because when 5% drops 60%, you lose 3% of your portfolio. When 50% drops 60%, you're starting over. The position size determines whether a normal market swing is something you can hold through or something that breaks you. And most people who got hurt in 2022 weren't hurt by the drop. They were hurt by how much they had in it. I'm not saying the market didn't fall. It did. I'm not saying there weren't bad actors. FTX collapsed in November 2022 and took real money with it. Macro conditions changed. Interest rates rose and risk assets got hit across the board. All of that is real. But here's what I had to accept. The market doing exactly what markets do is not the thing I had control over. My position size was, my entry point was, my decision to buy based on a feeling at 11 p.m. instead of a strategy at any other time. That was mine. Your crypto being down isn't proof that you're bad at this. It's proof that you were never given a framework for how to be in it. And that's a different problem. One that has a solution that doesn't involve waiting for the market to come back and hoping this time feels different. Next video is going to make some of you genuinely uncomfortable, because it's going to argue that the most responsible financial habit you were ever taught, the one every adult in your life told you was the safe choice, might actually be the thing quietly keeping you from building anything real.